Okay, now we're going to be performing division using complex numbers. All right, so here is a monomial divided by a monomial. Well, the first thing to notice is that 3 goes into 9, so you could actually start there. So notice 3 is 3 times 1, 9i is 3 times 3i, and then the 3's cancel, leaving 1 over 3i, but it's the I that we can't have down here, so we're going to multiply numerator and denominator by I. Well, 1 times I is I, 3 times I is 3i squared. And then remember the powers of I, and what we care about is the first 4 powers. Well, I squared is -1, so we can rewrite 3 times I squared as 3 times -1, which you'd write like this. But the problem is we wouldn't leave a negative sign in the denominator, so positive divided negative, the negative sign would come out front. And I think, yeah, and then to put it in complex form, there is no real piece, so you could just write it. So if you were to graph that, if you were to think about typically an x and a y and to graph it, plot it that way, but now we have an a and a bi. The a is graphed like the x-axis, so 0, and then -1/3 almost acts like the y. So if this is -1 at 0, so that point right there is 0, subtract 1/3 I. All right, let's go on. So now we have a binomial divided by a monomial, but the -7 part is real. So the only thing that we have to multiply top and bottom by is I. It's the I that is the imaginary part. So up here we're going to have a distributive, and then down here -7i times I is just -7i squared. I think that, there we go. And then remember, I squared is -1. Well, -7 times -1 cancels to +7. And in the numerator, I times 8 is 8i. -2i times I is -2i squared. And then the I squared cancels to -1. -2 times -1 cancels to +2. So let's see. I'm just showing you the steps right there. And then remember, this simplified, oops, to +7, and this simplified to 8i plus 2. But then we want it in the a plus bi form. Well, these both share a denominator of 7. So since the 2 is the a part, 2/7, and this is the bi part, so you're just going to rewrite it as 2 separate fractions. The a part is 2/7, and the bi part is 8/7 I. All right, and then when we have a binomial times a binomial, that is when you're going to multiply, we've done this before, multiply by the conjugate. There we go, I need to spell that correctly. And the conjugate of -4 subtract 10i would be -4 plus 10i. The conjugate is only deals with the operator. You don't do the opposite signs of -4, 10i. You leave those. You take this middle operator, and the conjugate is the reverse of that. So we're going to multiply top and bottom, numerator denominator by -4 plus 10i. And remember, the beauty of conjugates is, and I might have showed here, if not, multiply it out yourself using the distributive, but the beauty of conjugates is you only have to multiply the first times the first, and then negative times positive is negative, and then subtract the second times the second. So I think that's what I did down here. So it's negative 4 times negative 4, which cancels to positive 16, and then subtract 10i times 10i. Well, 10 times 10 is 100, and I times I is I squared. But I squared is the same as negative 1, so that becomes positive 100. And I think, yeah, that becomes, whoops, negative 1. So 16 plus 100 becomes 116. So let's now do the numerator. Let's see what I did over here. The numerator, we have a distributive. Negative 7 times, whoops, negative 4. Ooh, because I left off that negative, I'm going to have to change those signs down here. And then negative 7 times 10i, and then negative I times negative 4, and negative I times positive 10i. And then when you simplify that, this becomes positive 28, not negative 28. I just left off that negative sign there. And then negative 7 times 10i is negative 70i. Negative 4 times negative I is positive 4i. And then negative I times 10i is negative 10i squared, which cancels to negative 1. Negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10. And now we have 10 plus 28 and negative 70i plus positive 4i. Again, I've changed that sign because of that original mistake right there. All right, so again, that's positive 10, that's positive 28. So when you simplify this, because of that mistake originally done, so I'm fixing this, 28 plus 10 is 38, negative 70i plus 4i is negative 66i, and then you're going to separate it into a plus bi form. Well, first thing you're going to do is 38, 66, and 116 all have a 2 in common. So then you're going to rewrite this as 19 over 58, subtract 33i over 58. So you can reduce it and subtract, and I think because there's an error there, that's just the final answer. 19 over 58, subtract 33i over 58. Because with complex numbers, we always want to put the result in a plus bi form. All right, that's it for this.